In 1973, Led Zeppelin released the follow-up to what ended up becoming their most popular and successful record, inspiring the band to explore new musical horizons, resulting in possibly their most ambitious record ever. This is House of the Holy. House of the Holy, in my opinion, is the best Led Zeppelin album that they ever produced, in the sense of it being the most consistent sounding and one of the albums that have the best song collection they ever did.
I find that House of the Holy feels a little bit denser than most of Led Zeppelin's music. And I mean this in the sense that it might feel a little bit less fun than most of their stuff. Fun is not a word that I would use to describe this album, but it feels a little bit more substantial.
Does it has the best tracks in their career? Of course not, but it's the one that has the most consistent collection of songs, and in my opinion is the one that flows the best. The production values of this album are fantastic. It's one of their best sounding records ever, in my opinion, of course. And from the perspective of musicianship and the development of the sound of the band, I think this is one of the much more forward-thinking albums they ever released, because the use of synthesizers and keyboards in general are quite prominent in this album, and probably the reason why I like it so much, because it has a little bit of the elements from other bands such as Pink Floyd, and progressive rock elements in general, that makes this album feel a bit more expansive sounding. This album begins with a banger, which is the song remains the same. Very intense, fun sounding, and it's probably one of the best ways to introduce somebody into Led Zeppelin music. It has everything that makes Led Zeppelin fun.
I think it was the perfect choice for opener, because it both manages to deliver some of what you already expect out of Led Zeppelin, while also setting expectations correctly for what you're gonna find throughout the rest of the album.
It's exciting, it's fast, it's loud. It has plenty of acrobatics in the whole, from the perspective of musicianship, of course, and it's a very good sounding track.
The song kind of bridges the two sides of Led Zeppelin, one that's a little bit punchy, fun, upbeat, badass, high energy, and the other one that is a little bit more introspective, more cerebral, more intelligent sounding, which is the side that's more deeply explored throughout the entirety of this album. And I think this song sets you correctly to appreciate all of that. The way I see it, House of the Holy is a more composition-oriented album. And what I mean by this is that it relies less on spectacular performances to get the message across. And I think the Rain song is a great example of this.
Led Zeppelin had always had some form of fascination with the use of progressive rock elements in their music, which you can find, of course, in Stairway to Heaven, which happens to be, in my opinion, basically speaking, a prog rock track. And in this album, you got songs such as the Rain song, which happened to be a very much progressive sounding track. Even the style of the mix and the style of the production itself, it's quite reminiscent to the sound of Pink Floyd, don't you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Due to the use of effects in a clever fashion, but also the fact that the song itself evolves naturally and becomes quite layered throughout time, adding this sense of introspection that is not necessarily speaking a word that I would use to describe the sound of Led Zeppelin, because let's face it, Led Zeppelin is loud, powerful, and badass in general. But this track is very much kind of a spiritual successor to what Stairway to Heaven is. But what do you think?
While in many other instances of Led Zeppelin, you see remarkable guitar playing, remarkable drumming, remarkable singing, the Rain song doesn't have any of that. It's a song that doesn't need it, being very honest. The composition speaks for itself. Another evidence to their fantastic compositional chops comes in the flow of the whole of the album itself, because it moves beautifully from one song to the next, because you come from the Rain song, which is a song that is extremely introspective, kind of slow-paced, then you go into Over the Hills and Far Away, which is a song that begins kind of mellow, but develops a little bit of momentum, becomes a little bit more upbeat, develops a little bit more punch, taking you into The Crunch, which is a song that is very cool and groovy, carrying punch as well, and you see how you're being taken into a ride that flows correctly, up until the point that you get to Dire Mak'er.
Dire Mak'er is a song that I happen not to like, being very honest with you. Why? Because I think that the whole aesthetic or the whole notion of Led Zeppelin playing something kind of reggae-like sounding never appealed to me, being very frank with you.
Look, I'm not necessarily a hater of the song, okay? It's not a bad song. I think it's a fun, enjoyable take on Led Zeppelin doing reggae. but I feel that in the context of the album, it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's completely out of context. I feel that it breaks the flow that has been developed so well throughout the entire album up until that point.
But this track is important not only due to its popularity, but also because in here you can hear probably the most Led Zeppelin drum sound ever. The intro to the song is bombastic, loud, punchy, and kinda over the top, which is probably the sound that comes to your head when it comes to describing the sound not only of the band, but particularly John Bonham's drum style, don't you think?
I won't say that I hate the song, but I hate how it was positioned and used within the context of the album. And especially taking into consideration that the song that follows is No Quarter.
As I mentioned before, the use of effects and keyboards in this album are quite prominent. And you can hear those on tracks such as No Quarter, for example, which in my opinion is my favorite track out of this album, because it encompasses kind of the punchy nature of Led Zeppelin music, but with this much more mature sound that is quite prominent in this record. And the use of effects is incredible.
It shows some of the influence that Led Zeppelin was getting out of the whole motion of progressive rock that was happening at that point in time. We're talking about the early 70s, the period where some of the greatest works in progressive rock music were released.
The introduction to this whole track itself sounds something out of Genesis or even a Van der Graaf Generator album, don't you think?
Led Zeppelin kind of jumped into this bandwagon without having to stop being Led Zeppelin, because they are no strangers to progressive music. We've seen hints of progressive music throughout the entirety of their catalog, but I feel the Houses of the Holy is their proggiest moment, and No Quarter is probably the proggiest moment within House of the Holy. One of the reasons why I love this album so much, and perhaps one of the reasons why I love this song so much as well.
Overall, this album is fantastic. It has plenty of the Led Zeppelin-isms that makes the band be what it is, but also expanding on the foundation of the band, don't you think?
It feels very mature and intelligent, which are words that it wouldn't necessarily be my go-to words to describe music by Led Zeppelin.
It's a very good introduction to the band, but I don't think it's the best way or would be the first pick for me when it comes to showing the sound of the band to someone else. But this album would be the one that I would use to turn somebody who is already liking their music into a true fan. Because in here I think they show everything they got to offer in spades.
I think it legitimizes Led Zeppelin in a whole new level, because it shows quite a lot of brains, it shows quite a lot of maturity. Even though I already appreciated them quite a lot, it's an album that makes me respect them a lot more.
With that being said, thank you for joining and thank you for watching. If you want to support this kind of content, the best way to do it is by simply clicking on the like button underneath if you haven't done it so far. And also subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell if you want to see more content like this coming down your way. As every single time we meet you, we gotta remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that I will see you when I see you.